This is Breaking News.
Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Moore with more breaking news. City officials updating the public on the investigation into the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Let's listen in.
Person of interest in the shooting that shook our city last week. CEO Brian Thompson of UnitedHealthcare was the victim of a senseless act of violence. Our officers have been working around the clock. Many of them did not go home to pursue this individual. It was crucial that we were able to remove him off the streets of America, and we were going to seek him out no matter where he was at the time. And so this is a strong person of interest. The police commissioner and chief of detectives will go over where we are right now in the investigation. He matches the description of the identification we've been looking for. He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident. How did we do it? Good old-fashioned police work. The chief of detectives and the police commissioner made the decision to release as much of a photo that we had at the time. We sent it across the country, and someone, a McDonald's employee, did something we ask every American to do. If you see something, say something, but most importantly, do something. And they did. And because of that, we believe we have a strong person of interest to deal with this case. I want to now turn it over to the police commissioner of the city of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world, and of course, the strong relationships we have with our local law enforcement partners. On every level, local, state, and federal, we all serve the same public safety mission. And this case, which captured the attention of an entire nation, is another example of how connected we are and how important it is to work together, share information, and pursue every lead. For just over 5 days, our NYPD investigators combed through thousands of hours of video, followed up on hundreds of tips, and processed every bit of forensic evidence, DNA, fingerprints, IP addresses, and so much more to tighten the net. We deployed drones, canine units, and scuba divers. We leveraged the domain awareness system, Argus cameras, and conducted aviation canvasses. And our detectives also went door to door, interviewing potential witnesses and doing the good old-fashioned police work that our investigators are famous for. This combination of old-school detective work and new-age technology is what led to this result today. And we must also acknowledge the instrumental role the media and the public played in this case. The images that we shared with the public were spread far and wide, and the tips we received led to the recovery of crucial evidence. We should never underestimate the power of the public to be our eyes and our ears in these investigations. This is the third time in 3 weeks that a member of the public has seen something and said something and done something that led to a high-profile arrest. The triple stabbing homicide in Manhattan, the gunpoint robberies in Queens during which an NYPD officer was shot, and now this. Now, the case will continue through the criminal justice process, and while we are proud of today's accomplishment, we must, of course, remember that a family is in mourning. I want to again extend my sympathies to Brian's family, his co-workers, and all who knew him. Finally, I want to thank the women and men of the NYPD, especially our Detective Bureau personnel, with a strong assist from our intelligence analysts. We also thank the SAC of the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division, Leslie Rodriguez-Bekshies, and I want to commend the staff of the Manhattan DA's office, and especially DA Alvin Bragg. He has been working with us 24/7 on this case, and I am incredibly grateful for his partnership. I'll now pass it along to our great Chief of Detectives, Joe Kenny, who will provide additional information. Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. As the Commissioner stated earlier, a male was taken into custody today in Altoona, Pennsylvania this morning. He has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione. He's a male, 26 years old. He was born and raised in Maryland. We know he has ties to San Francisco, California, and his last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii. He has no prior arrest history in New York. Members of the NYPD Detective Bureau are currently traveling to Pennsylvania with members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to interview this subject. This case was brought to a successful conclusion based on the coordinated effort between numerous NYPD units, including the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau, our federal partners at the FBI, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and of course, members of the Altoona Police Department in Pennsylvania. On Thursday, one day after this crime was committed, the NYPD released a photo of the shooter in this case. This picture was obtained by the NYPD during one of their extensive video canvasses. We took that photograph and we asked for the public's help in identifying this subject, and the public responded. Hundreds of tips began to pour into our hotline. Each tip was investigated thoroughly, and we began to release additional photographs as they came into our possession. The NYPD provided these photos to numerous media outlets. Local, national, and international outlets released the photo via television, print, social media, and online content. Luckily, a citizen in Pennsylvania recognized our subject and called local law enforcement. Members of the Altoona Police Department responded to the call, and based on their investigation, they notified the NYPD. This investigation is still active and ongoing. Thank you very much.
First, and then we'll. Mark?
I had a couple of questions about the document that he was found in possession with. Can you go a little bit more in depth about those motivations that you mentioned? Was that CEO specifically named in that document? Was there anything more about him wanting to go after others? And also in that document, was there any indication that explains us how the level of detail that he went into killing him? Like, is there anything?
Like I said, that document is currently in the possession of the Altoona Police Department as part of their investigation. But just from briefly speaking with them, we don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document. But it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
Over here, sir.
MJ?
Chief, was the suspect wearing a mask at the time he was spotted in McDonald's? And also, criminal cases often have a linchpin. Can you point to a single linchpin that helped crack this case?
There's numerous linchpins in this case, in the fact that we've recovered an enormous amount of forensic evidence, an enormous amount of video, and once again, with your help and the public's help. So I really couldn't put it on one thing, but if I had to, it would be the release of that photograph from the media.
Dean?
You said he had a passport on him. Do you believe he was trying to flee the country? And also, are you still looking for any evidence in Central Park with regards to the bike?
We had divers in the water yesterday. That came up negative results. The passport, we don't believe that he was planning on doing any traveling. At this time, we don't think he, at this point in our investigation, we don't think he was trying to flee the country.
The person at the McDonald's, were they buying food? What were they doing at that exact moment?
He was an employee at the McDonald's.
Right. But what was the suspect doing?
He was sitting there eating.
Will the suspect be brought back to New York and charged here, and when?
We're going to have to work that out with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He's going to be facing gun charges there, and at some point we'll work out through extradition to bring him back to New York to face charges here, working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Anita?
Hi, Anita from the New York Post. I was just hoping to get more details on the capture itself. Did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to cops? And we've also reported that he published online anti-health care industry rantings. Can you share with us some of the services that he posted on?
We're still working through his social media. We're going to do a complete scrub of that. Preliminarily, like I said, he seems that he has some ill will toward corporate America, but that will all come out as part of our investigation. We're not done here. We're still going to be putting this together. We're still going to be working very hard to bring this to a successful conclusion.
And the capture itself, did he put up a fight? Did he say anything to police?
I don't have that information.
Oh, sorry. Can you elaborate on how he got there, the path he took from Port Authority and on the George Washington Bridge to Altoona, PA? Same thing.
This just happened this morning. We'll be working, backtracking his steps from New York to Altoona, Pennsylvania.
I was going to ask if we knew anything, if he took a bus to Philadelphia first and then somehow got to Altoona. But
We're still working on that. We're still working through that.
Britain. Is there any indication that anybody else was helping him from the inside, as far as tracking the CEO's movements?
Once again, we're still working this investigation very hard. It's not at its conclusion yet. That could come out during our investigation, but as of right now, we have no indication that that took place.
Chief, did he have any weapons or anything like that with him when he was arrested?
He was in possession of a ghost gun that had the capability of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor.
Joe?
Can you get into a little bit about the technical aspects of the investigation? I know you deployed an unprecedented amount of technology. You also activated the Sentry program through Intel. Can you talk about how that is going to play into actually building the case as far as cell phone and all of the other technical aspects of what you've done?
In this case, it really came down to technology was the use of drones in Central Park, and really comes down to the video canvas that we did. We used every source of video that we could collect, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from hundreds of sources, and that helped bring this to where we are right now.
The gun is it believed to be the gun used in the shooting? And there was some talk that it was a veterinarian type gun. Is that accurate?
No, as of right now, the information we're getting from Altoona is that the gun appears to be a ghost gun, may have been made on a 3D printer, the capability of firing a 9mm round. Obviously, that will come out during our ballistics testing.
Oliver?
Yeah, Oliver Barnes from the Financial Times. Do you have any indication how long this handwritten, is it a handwritten manifesto that you found on the suspect? And then also whether or not he put it online at all?
Don't know if it's online. As of right now, it's a handwritten 3-page document.
Chief, does he have ties to that area, and was he someone who you knew by name before his arrest?
We believe he may have attended college in Pennsylvania, but like I said earlier, he has ties to Maryland and California and Hawaii.
You knew him by name before today. Was his name on your radar?
Excuse me?
Was his name on your radar? Was he someone who you had been looking into before his arrest?
No, we did not have his name prior to today.
Lynn? Britain? Okay. Does he have any prior arrests? I know there were none for New York City, but is there any prior arrests anywhere else in the country?
We have not come across any arrests in the country.
Chief, hi, how are you? On two things. On the ghost gun, is it something you're going to be looking into to see if he made it himself? And can he make that himself? Or would he have to buy the gun the way it was?
No, once again, that'll be part of our investigation as we follow up.
I mean, obviously he's going to face murder charges, but is there any chance that he could face any other charges because he was targeting the CEO and because of his writings and other things that we're now finding on him? Potentially federal charges or
that determination will be made by Alvin Bragg.
Yes, what connections does he have in Pennsylvania that you know of, and are they in Altoona specifically?
We believe he attended college in Pennsylvania.
Does he know anybody in Pennsylvania?
Wouldn't be able to tell you that.
All right, we're going to take one more question on the shooting, Marla, and then we're going to go. You talk about the manifesto having said things against corporations, but specifically UnitedHealthcare, and do you believe that Mangione acted alone?
We believe at this point, our investigation is leaning toward he was acting alone. So, like I stated earlier, we're still working through the investigation. We're not stopping today. And as far as the manifesto, like I said, I don't have the complete details of that. It's in the possession of the Altoona Police Department.
We're going to shift to Altoona.
Yep. Good job, Chief. Commissioner, Chief Manager. Again, great job by the New York City Police Department. In certain aspects of this investigation and the crime itself is something that we have been zeroing in on. Ghost guns.
That was Mayor Adams and
really
NYPD brass updating us on the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is now under arrest. Officials calling him, quote, a strong person of interest. They tell us an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, spotted Mangione eating at the restaurant and called police. He matched the description of the shooter. He also was carrying a weapon consistent with the one used to murder Thompson last Wednesday outside the Midtown Hilton. Police described that as a ghost gun with a silencer attached. They say he was also carrying a fake New Jersey ID, the same fake ID that police say he used to check into that Upper West Side hostel where he was allegedly staying before the murder. Police say Mangione also had a 3-page document, a manifesto with him, that contained writings expressing what they described as ill will toward corporate America. They said they do not believe anyone else named in the manifesto is in danger. Again, Luigi Mangione arrested in the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Allie Bauman right now on her way to Pennsylvania. I believe we have her by phone. Allie, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, Jessica, I hear you. I'm in the car right now on the way to Altoona.
Were you able to hear any of that press conference, and what were your big takeaways?
Yeah, I was able to listen to the beginning of the press conference there and what we're learning and what you were reiterating about the person of interest that they have in custody there, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, that, as you mentioned, was spotted at a McDonald's this morning by an employee there who did what the police say. You know, they ask every person to do is see something, say something, and do something. And what was interesting is that they said this is actually the third time in 3 weeks that a member of the public, you know, put in a tip that led to a high-profile arrest for a New York City case. Now, what they were saying is that the detectives, since Wednesday, since Brian Thompson was killed, have been scrubbing through and going through thousands of hours of surveillance videos, following up on hundreds of tips, knocking on doors. The police commissioner in the press conference today said that this arrest is really the culmination of good old-fashioned detective work mixed with the new technology that they have, because they were using drones to search the park for that backpack that may be connected to the suspect as well. They were using, you know, all the surveillance cameras that we've been talking about over the past several days, of all the surveillance cameras that caught this person in various locations to try to track their moves from when he arrived to where he was staying to the shooting, and then to eventually going back to the Port Authority to get on a bus, which now appears he may have taken back, or he may have taken to Pennsylvania. Now we're trying to right now do some background research on this person of interest, Luigi Mangione, and see his ties to Pennsylvania, as well as where he may be from. So, you know, I think that right now the NYPD is definitely taking a sigh of relief that they were able to find someone that appears to match the description of the person they've been looking for.
Right. It certainly seems that way, Allie. And I know they found the backpack in Central Park. They found that surveillance video that showed him appearing to go from the George Washington bus terminal down to Atlanta. They thought they had U.S. Marshals and NYPD officers all along that route between Atlanta and New York, trying to make sure that they found where he may have stopped. And it turns out he wasn't that far from where we are right now. I know you're on your way right now to Altoona. The Altoona police, as the mayor said, are in possession of this manifesto. I think all along throughout this investigation, that has been the big question. What was his motivation? Why did he obviously do so much research to know exactly where Brian Thompson would be and when, so that he was able to meet him outside of that hotel and shoot him? You're heading to Altoona. What are you expecting to find out when you get there?
We're heading to that McDonald's where this tip allegedly came in to police. So I think right now we're expecting to see a large police presence there. I was trying to call that McDonald's on the way there. It went to voicemail. A producer that we have tried to call as well and got a no comment and a hang up. So I'm sure they're being inundated with phone calls and people trying to talk to those employees there, trying to find the employee who spotted him from, supposedly one of the images that the police have been putting out there. I think that they've been saying that most key piece of evidence was really that photo they got of him pulling his mask down at the hospital when he was checking in the hospital in New York. And as far as the police sources are telling us, from what they can tell, that's really the most he pulled down his mask during his entire 10-day stay while he was in New York City. The rest of the time, he either had that blue mask on that we saw in the photo where he was in a taxi cab, or he had the dark-colored mask on the rest of the time. So I think that is really the most crucial piece of evidence that they've had in this investigation so far.
Yeah, the police have been calling it that moment of flirtation that may have ultimately led to his arrest. Allie Bauman, thank you. I know you're on your way to Altoona. We'll have more from you this evening. Joining us now to talk more about the latest updates, CBS law enforcement contributor Rich Esposito. Rich, we mentioned, of course, they're calling this person a strong person of interest in relation to the murder of Brian Thompson. What stood out to you in terms of how police were able to track him down?
I think what stood out was, first of all, of course, the tenacity, the manpower, the amount of diligence to using technology. But what really stood out today was their care in saying it is a person of interest. And despite all the information leading to this is the guy, they still have more work to do. I think that's what was clear to me.
I did find that fascinating. You'd think by this point, when they say he matches the description, he had the weapon they believe was used, he had the same ID, they're not calling him a suspect. I mean, from your background, what would prevent police from making that jump?
The first thing they want to be sure that they and the district attorney are aligned on the elements they have. And the second thing is they want to make sure the forensics are solid. It looks like the suspect has the necessary documents that point to a suspect, has the same ID. But why rush calling someone a suspect? Why not have it all buttoned down?
Right.
And that's what they're doing.
No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for explaining it. What kind of unique challenges, in your opinion, were law enforcement officers up against when they were trying to find this guy? It seemed to have vanished from the city right after the shooting.
Well, I mean, the first part of the challenge is, like, who does this? Suddenly you have someone killing a CEO in Midtown Manhattan. So why? Is it a professional hit? What's the grievance? Then you have the challenges of the hunt. A masked person leaving on a bicycle, going through one of the least surveilled areas in Manhattan Central Park, and then leaving town on a bus, probably. And they think he did leave on a bus. No real cameras in that area, no need to identify yourself. So those are challenges.
And in your opinion, what are the next steps? Now the police have, I can't say a suspect, now the police have a strong person of interest detained. What are the next steps? Is this where what you were talking about a few minutes ago comes in, where they have to get in alignment with the DA, do the forensics? What happens now?
That's why the detectives from New York are going down to Altoona now, and they'll sit down. First thing that's going to happen is they and the New York prosecutors will sit down with the prosecutors and the cops in Altoona, determine what the process is going to be for extradition, determine what evidence they need right now. bullet casings, guns, etc.
And in your experience, how likely is it that we get any kind of insight into this 3-page manifesto that police say he was carrying?
I think you'll have a lot of insight by the end of the day.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's been keeping anything secret that can be made public.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. All right, Rich Esposito, thank you as always for your insight. Let's bring in Natalie Duddridge now. She just left the press conference. Natalie, what can you tell us? What stood out to you?
Well, Jess, we just heard from Mayor Adams. We also heard from the police commissioner. So I'm going to reiterate some of those details and hopefully add a couple of new ones. So we do have the name Luigi Nicholas Mangione, 26 years old. We are told this person of interest was born in Maryland, has ties to Hawaii, may have some type of connection to Pennsylvania. But when we asked if there was any type of connection to New York or any prior arrests here, that was a no. So far, we've heard from police no prior arrests that they know of at this current moment anywhere in the country. The NYPD says this all started when an employee at a McDonald's spotted somebody who appeared to look like that person of interest that they had been seeing dozens of photos of. We are told that the person of interest was actually eating inside the McDonald's. That gave time for Pennsylvania police to respond to the tip from that employee, and authorities say the person of interest taken into custody was carrying several fake IDs, and one of them a New Jersey fake ID, which is consistent with the fake ID that was used to check into an Upper West Side hostel earlier this week. Police also telling us, and the Mayor Adams here today, that a person of interest was carrying a firearm similar to the firearm used in the murder of Brian Thompson. The source said the physical description match that person of interest. We are also told that person of interest was in possession of a ghost gun with a silencer capable of shooting a 9mm round with a suppressor on it. Sources say this possible suspect is now being held as a result on an illegal gun charge. And in the meantime, investigators will work to confirm that he is the actual alleged gunman. Also, a point to note, there was a handwritten document that police here just told us minutes ago that speaks to his mindset. We asked about what was in that document. That has not yet been revealed, but we were told that there's possibly other names mentioned in that document. However, police telling us here just moments ago that they don't believe that any of those names mentioned are under threat, but that there was some type of ill will towards corporate America. So what happens from here? Well, police will continue to investigate DNA evidence. Again, they had DNA evidence from a cup from Starbucks that was discarded in the trash. They'll look at that. They have also been looking at fingerprints that were put through a national fingerprint database. Now, if the person of interest is confirmed, we are told that they wouldn't then immediately be returned to New York. There's obviously a process of extradition that has to happen. So again, the NYPD currently on their way to Altoona, Pennsylvania, where they will question this person of interest. And also important to note, the NYPD, the police commissioner, thanking the dozens, in fact, hundreds of tips that they received. They said it's due to the public's help that they were able to track down this person of interest here today. That's the latest from City Hall. Natalie Duddridge, CBS News, New York.
Natalie, thank you. I thought it was interesting. Chief of Detectives Joe Kenny said probably the most important point in this investigation was when that picture was released. We put it out. Every media outlet around the world pretty much put that photo out. And finally, someone has tracked down this person of interest, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. All eyes now waiting to see what was inside that 3-page manifesto. Rich Esposito says we may know more about that by the end of tonight. Allie Bauman on her way to Altoona, Pennsylvania for the latest on the investigation there. We'll have much more on this story coming up starting at CBS 2 News at 5.